Hello, and welcome to That Magical Fam podcast, where we talk all things Disney, including Disney vacation planning, park tips, Disney facts, and more. I'm your host, Liz Morgan from thatdisneyfam.com. Thank you so much for being here for episode 2 of our podcast. So, our family typically goes to Disneyland once a year as a family. It's enough that we know our way around the parks and we know a lot about them, but there are always some changes or cool things we learn about each time we go. We just got back from a trip, so I wanted to share the things that I learned on my most recent Disneyland trip. Hopefully, this will help you navigate your next trip better and make it even more magical for you. As I'm sure you know, the Disneyland Resort has 2 theme parks, Disneyland and California Adventure. I'm going to share things I learned from both of the parks. Before we get into the things I learned at Disneyland, I wanted to remind you to follow us on social media. We're active on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We also have an email list with emails that go out 1 to 2 times a week with different Disney topics. Okay, let's get into the things I learned on my last Disney trip. The first thing that I learned about was changes to DOS passes. So Disneyland it's called DOS passes. It's short for Disability Access Service passes. They're available to people who need it. Neurodivergent people qualify for it if they have a hard time waiting in traditional lines for attractions. We always get a DOS pass for one of our kids who needs it. Disneyland made some changes to DOS passes since our last trip, so we had to learn about those changes this time. They made them a few months ago, but we just kind of waited till we were going again to really learn about it. So we did a video call with a cast member before going, and we had the pass all set up in our Disneyland app waiting for us when we started our trip. Disney has changed who qualifies for it, but that did not affect our family because my son still qualifies for it. The biggest change that affected us was that it used to be that you could scan into a ride and immediately get in a virtual line for your next ride. But they've changed this now so that you have to wait 10 minutes after scanning in to book your next ride. This is not a big deal. Like, we were not upset by this or anything, but it is a change that I noticed from our trip last year to our trip this year. Another change they made is that if you have more than 6 people in your group, then people who are not immediate family cannot ride at the same time as you, but will ride after your family. This did not apply to our group, but I thought it was strange, and I don't really understand the reasoning for it. So we'll just have to see if they undo any of these changes in the future, or maybe they'll make more changes. Who knows? But yeah, that was something we noticed. The second thing we learned about was where to cool off. So, unfortunately, we went during a crazy Anaheim heat wave. Every day was over 100 degrees, and it was pretty miserable how hot it was there. I'd never been to Disneyland when it was that hot. So, we had to spend a lot of time cooling off and making sure that our little kids, we have 4 kids, their ages 5 months, a 2-year-old, and then 5-year-old twins. So we had to make sure that they did not overheat either. So we found some really good places to cool off from the heat. So that was really nice. The 2 places we went with the best air conditioning were the attraction It's a Small World and Mickey's House in Toontown. Now, I know some people don't like It's a Small World, but our family loves it. It's one of my son's favorite rides, so we always go on it, but it's about 20 minutes long, the ride, and it has blasts of AC every now and then that just felt so good with how hot we were. Mickey's house in Toontown is very cooled off and feels so amazing in there. There's a few benches when you walk in where you can sit for a little bit if you want to. There were some people sitting in there just cooling off and stuff. We didn't sit, we just kept walking through the house. But if you needed to sit somewhere cool for a minute, that's a place you could go. So you just kind of wind around his house and look at all different kinds of things. And then at the end, you wait in line to meet Mickey while you're watching Mickey Mouse cartoons. And then you go meet Mickey. So it's super cute and really good AC, way better than Minnie Mouse's house in Toontown. Other good places for cooling off a little were any of the indoor rides like Pirates, Haunted Mansion, anything indoors. And then restaurants with indoor seating like Alien Pizza Planet or Flo's V8 Cafe. And then another place we liked going was the Main Street Cinema. We forgot to go to the Enchanted Tiki Room, but that would have been a great place too to have some nice AC. The third thing that I learned on our trip was that you can meet Steamboat Willie. So I mentioned going to Mickey's house already, but something we were not expecting while there was meeting Steamboat Willie. It's actually Mickey Mouse on the set of Steamboat Willie. So he's wearing an all gray outfit and just looks so insanely cute. We loved it. We were so excited when we got there to see that it was Steamboat Willie. Because I thought you always meet Mickey Mouse in his like tuxedo outfit, but I guess that's not the case. And a few minutes after we went through Mickey's house, my sister-in-law went to meet Mickey with our baby, and she met Mickey in his tuxedo. So I don't think there's a way of knowing which outfit you'll meet Mickey in, but you can always go through a few times if you really want to try or ask a cast member. Maybe they have more information on it. The fourth thing that I learned on our trip to Disneyland was I learned about the Radiator Springs Racers Skip the Line card. My 2-year-old son is just under 40 inches tall. The height requirement for Radiator Springs Racers is 40 inches. So we weren't quite sure if he was tall enough or not. So I took him over to the ride and asked a cast member to measure him to see if he was tall enough to go on it. Unfortunately, he was not tall enough. He is just like a hair too short. So next time we go to Disneyland, I know he'll be tall enough and he'll be so excited. But even though he wasn't tall enough, the cast member did something so cool. He opened up this little locker next to where they measure kids, and he gave my son this skip the line card for the ride. So my son can bring it back when he's tall enough, and he and 5 other guests can use it as a lightning lane for Radiator Springs Racers. So we thought this was so cool and such a sweet thing to do. It definitely helped my son not be so sad about not being able to go on the ride. And he's still talking about it and asking if he's tall enough because he's so excited to use the card when he is tall enough. The fifth thing that I learned about was that you can get free ice at First Aid. So in both Disneyland and California Adventure, you can go to First Aid to get a bag of ice for free if you need it. I got it to use in my little cooler bag that I had with me that had breast milk in it that I was pumping for my baby throughout the day. I was also able to get ice from some quick service restaurants, and I just put it in like Ziploc bags that I brought with me. So if you're wanting to do that, First Aid in Disneyland is located at the end of Main Street, USA, on the right side, just after the Baby Care Center. And First Aid in California Adventure is located on Buena Vista Street, next to the Chamber of Commerce. The sixth thing that I learned about was where to wait for characters in Toontown. So my 3 older kids, love to meet the characters in Toontown since their favorite characters are Minnie Mouse, Donald Duck, and Mickey Mouse. So you can meet Mickey and Minnie in their houses, but the other characters walk around Toontown and go to designated spots to meet you. So if you wait where the characters come out, it makes your wait times so much shorter to see them. So when you're facing Minnie Mouse's house, you'll see a crosswalk to the right. It leads to a door where characters and cast members come out of. So don't go over to the door, but you can hang out in the little street area and wait for characters there. So on our last trip when we were waiting over there, we saw Pluto, Max, and Donald Duck. My 5-year-old son's favorite character is Donald Duck. So when he came out, my son was able to run over and give him a quick hug, and then Donald Duck had us follow him over by his boat because that's where he does the character meets. So since we were right behind Donald and like walking with him, we only had to wait like a minute to see him and get our pictures with him. So we will definitely hang out in this area again to see who comes out and kind of follow them around for quick character meets. The 7th thing I learned on our trip was that character times in the Disneyland app change a lot. So my kids wanted to meet a lot of characters on our trip, so I spent a lot of time looking in the Disneyland app to see who was going to be out that day and what times and where and all that info. So the characters it showed and their times changed nonstop. It made it so hard to plan who we were going to see and when. Like one time we walked from Alien Pizza Planet back to the beginning of Main Street to meet Minnie Mouse, and it showed in the app that she would be out at that time and a few more times that day. But when we got there, there was a cast member who told us that Mickey Mouse was the only character that was going to be out that night. And then another day when we were there, we hurried to wrap up our lunch at Red Rose Tavern to go meet Mirabelle and Isabella from Encanto. So we hurried over there to Frontierland where you're supposed to meet them, and a cast member came out and told us that neither one of them would be out the rest of the day and they didn't know why. I know that stuff is subject to change, but my kids were really sad about it, and it added a lot of extra walking to our days in the park. So it was a little frustrating just how much it was changing and how we couldn't really rely on any of the information in there. The 8th thing I learned on our trip was that you can get Mickey Mouse on the top of your slushes. So, like I said earlier, it was very hot while we were at Disneyland, so we got a lot of slushes to stay cooled off. Our favorite slushes were from Edelweiss Snacks and Fantasyland. They have a few different flavors like cherry, blue raspberry, which is my favorite, and Coca-Cola, and I think like a mango lime one. So the coolest part of the slushes from here was that they usually put a Mickey on top with 3 circles, so a big one for his head and then the 2 little ones for his ears. They use like the slush machine to make that on top, and it is just so cute. We did have some slushes from there that didn't get a Mickey, so if you're wanting one, just ask the cast member for a Mickey on top, and I'm sure they'll be happy to make it for you. The 9th thing I learned was the best places to nurse a baby. So we had our 5-month-old baby with us, and I am pumping breast milk for him. This is not our first Disneyland vacation where I've been nursing or pumping for a baby, but I found better places to do it on this trip. So I'm not like afraid to pump at restaurants and other places that don't offer a lot of privacy. I've figured out how to do it and stay pretty covered up to where most people don't even know that I'm pumping. But I decided to try the baby care center this time, and I didn't think it was a great experience. Maybe it was just my experience, I don't know, but I only did that one time. I didn't end up going back to that. I thought that the workers there were not friendly. They were pretty unwelcoming and kind of made you feel like you weren't supposed to be there, which I thought was kind of odd. It was also very hot in there, and I did not have much room for my baby and all my pumping stuff. So, just not a great experience, not horrible, but I would just rather find other places to pump. So, in Disneyland, I preferred pumping in the Main Street Cinema. And then in California Adventure, I liked pumping in the area that's under the Silly Symphony Swings ride. It was nice there. There were not a lot of people there. Like, I only saw 1 or 2 people the whole time I was over there. There were benches, shade, and ceiling fans above us. So that was a really nice area for it. And the last thing, the 10th thing that I learned about was new hidden Mickeys. I am always on the hunt for new hidden Mickeys, and I found quite a few on our last Disneyland trip. So my favorite one was Mickey up in the wires in Cars Land. If you're wanting to find that one, you can go to the end of the road in Cars Land where the Stanley statue is and look up and to the left, and you'll see a cute little Mickey in the wires. It is so cute. I just loved it. So I hope that hearing about my experience from our last Disneyland trip helps you to better plan your next Disneyland trip. As always, you can let us know if you have any questions about any of this or anything else Disney related. And if you want to share something with us that you learned from your last Disneyland trip, let us know, and we would love to hear from you. For more information about this topic, please check the episode description because we put some links related to this topic there. Or you can head to our website, thatdisneyfam.com, for more information. Well, that's all for now, and we'll see you real soon for another episode.